said once he got out, he told himself and the guys from back inside he'll never come back. He'll commit suicide. So he begged us to take him out and shoot him. Of course, we didn't. But he begged us to let him OD, which of course we didn't. And unfortunately, he did go back. I mean, fortunately, we caught him. He went back, and unfortunately, he did die in prison.
Well, this is brings about a greater challenge in terms of how do we deal with the issue that there's chronic unemployment here in this community. There's a lot of issues where people, whether they be parenting issues or they may make a mistake. One of the things that concerns me is that people who are violating parole or may be in that transition trying to make a difference, they may not commit as serious a crime as what they got originally arrested for. But if they start to build up a record, and this is why it's important not to establish a record in the first place.
That's right.
But if you start to build up a record, even the smallest offense can sometimes just put you right back in incarceration. And so it's important, on the one hand, to have a wraparound service or a sense of community involvement that we're all in this together.
We really are.
And we need to, as men to men and parents and neighbors, be able to talk to someone and try to avoid people putting themselves at risk. Because like you said, the idea of even just going back into that environment will make people go to extremes that they normally would not.
Absolutely. You talk to any law enforcement, and they flick a car, they get ready to pull a car over, you got a habitual offender in that vehicle that, number one, probably doesn't have his license. Number two, is you don't know what he's been doing in it, or she. The fleeing and eluding is a thing that is probably one of the scariest times. This is based on talking to law enforcement. Fleeing and eluding is one of the scariest times in their job, day-to-day routine, because these people have no, it's just disregard for life or any safety or anything. They're running red lights at 80 miles an hour, down Sherman, down Wood Street, down 31. It doesn't matter what community. They can be out in Roosevelt Park or out at Lake Michigan or North Muskegon. When those lights go on and they take off, I mean, they have total disregard for anybody, including themselves. So if you're out with your wife, or me with my wife, or we're riding with the family, and here comes this nut job, and he runs red light and kills people, they wonder why, when a traffic stop comes to a stop after fleeing and eluding, why everybody's so pumped up, why that adrenaline's going. Well, the absolute, the reason being is because they put all general public at risk, their life, including the officer, and including themselves behind the wheel. So, I mean, it's very intense. I can see why when they get them down sometimes, of course, I'm not, condoning any type of police brutality or anything, but I can understand how that adrenaline gets up, because we have been in several foot chases and been locked out, kicked out, pushed out, and threatened, and just that little bit gets you going. I can only imagine when you're going 60 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour through a neighborhood, how that just must make that officer feel, or those in front of them seeing them coming at them. I mean, it's just got to be.
Well, I mean, the safety and concern about, like you said, what the officer, he or she, is going through, having to, okay, here we go again.
Yeah.
You have to get psyched up to do that, but you also want to be careful you don't, put yourself or some other innocent civilian at risk.
Yeah.
I mean, the very fact that people will go to such extremes in this day and age, it seems that it's multiplied. It's gotten more convenient, and I, to a certain degree, blame the media for overemphasizing that to a degree. I mean, I lived in Los Angeles and was involved with public safety issues on a state and national level, and they'll follow a car chase, preempt the news, and everybody's like, vicariously trying to see if they can get away with it, and people will imitate this behavior, thinking maybe that's my only option.
That's true.
But in the 60s and 70s, you didn't see this as an option.
That's
so
right.
This desperate measures type of approach is really a risk to the community as a whole. So on one level, think before you act. As one, I'm sure someone who's in the business, don't put yourself at the risk, because you're risking everybody, not just yourself.
That's true. It reminds me of the saying that there used to be a show on the radio called "Criminals Are Stupid," or the dumb things criminals do. Yeah. And I used to listen and laugh all the time, and I thought, no, these people can't be real. There's, it's always somebody in Florida or Arizona, and I thought, they must just be making this stuff up. Then we got into the game a little bit, and we go, sometimes they don't make the best decisions. I mean, we've had them hide behind shower curtains and stuff, like, we couldn't find them, or laying underneath a blanket down in the basement under the dirty clothes, or up in the attic underneath the fiberglass and stuff. I mean, it's just amazing that at the lengths they will try to, get away, the things they'll do to try to get away.
Well, this brings us to an important topic that we want to address and invite our viewers here on DSE TV to pay attention to and keep a thought out for, is that you've had a program running for a couple of years now, and we're hoping to incorporate that in our schedule called Gotcha TV.
Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit about how that came about, and as you mentioned, these are very high-risk situations, and sometimes there's the bitter irony that sometimes life is funnier than, some of these things are hard to believe that people will go to these extremes. But tell us a little bit about Gotcha TV and how that came about.
Okay, I met Ray Williams. We call him Taff. He's a Brit that I know, and I got to meet him, I guess it's been 5 years ago, and found out he's a cameraman and traveled the world and stuff, and he had some great background in military, different techniques for takedowns and self-defense. So we got to talk, and I was telling him what I always wanted to do was to put a show on TV to help people that I bond out as kind of a deterrent to not to fail to appear. I'll go back to court, otherwise I'll put you on TV and I'll embarrass you. And so we started talking about it. He said, it sounds pretty fun, could be a little risky. I said, well, it's risky. We'll need a couple cameras and, mic some stuff up. So we did a couple test runs. We did it for about 2 months. And we found out it takes about 400 hours of sitting out in the cold driveways and driving up and down to get about 5 minutes that you can use. And so we thought, I don't know if this is such a good idea. Then things started really breaking open, and we started getting a few right away instead of putting 40 hours in to get one. And so it's kind of an idea him and I came up with. And at that time, we were blessed. Odie Ragland, I had found, he started working for me, Triple D, and then Ira Williams, Rocket. So that was the nucleus right there. The team we were the Fantastic Four, the first 4 guys that thought, we can do this thing. And it actually panned out really well. We learned a lot. We were on there for a couple of years. We had, we got great chemistry. We learned so much on how to use the IT, information technology. Sure. Now. We fostered tremendous relationships with law enforcement, both in the street and at the county building. You just got to be able to get along with everybody and share information. The streets pretty much love us. There's a few that probably don't. However, we always try to treat people with respect, and regardless of the situation. I mean, when you look back at it, you can't believe they did that. You might be a little PO'd at the time at them. Or, you put people at risk, but when you look back at the end of the day, you just go, that's their life, and we did our job. We put them back. It became a major hit. We still get phone calls, emails, letters from all over the Midwest because we were on a pretty big channel for a while. But even the people that went back into the joint prison or jails, they still write us saying, I'm doing better now. I'm sorry. If I ever get in trouble again, can I use you again, And so it was pretty cool. And we went on the web, gotchatv.com.
That's what I was going to ask. How can people find out about it?
Yeah, gotchatv.com. That's GOTCHA, TV like television.com. And we're excited to bring back some of the best of Gotcha TV here on the station. And we've probably got another 2 seasons in the can that we're looking forward to editing and unrolling and getting it back on the air.
Well, as you were starting to speak about it, I was thinking about that the dragnet thing in terms of following these stories, or Naked City. Going back to the 60s, there are 8 million stories in the Naked City about New York crime, and we've seen such a prevalence of crime shows, and very sophisticated in some ways. But also, you mentioned the technology, here in Muskegon County, as all over the nation. And a lot of it, I think it's been since 9/11, but it's been in the works for a while. There are cameras in all kinds of intersections. Right. People need to be conscious that they can't just pretend that nobody's watching. There's somebody's keeping an eye on, just because you need to be able to track these things. But I think you mentioned an important part about public safety, and that's the collaboration issue. Because, as I was asking you about some of your licensing and things, people wonder whether you have special authority to to seize or arrest people, or how you capture people, or how you maybe report them maybe you cite them and report them to the police so they can make the appropriate arrest. Are those some of the challenges that you face, and could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. People think bounty hunting is great. Dude, let's get a